This is not working. Okay. Hello and welcome to Raus IAS. This is the Daily News Simplified for the date 7th March 2024. And for today's discussion, we have taken these following 6 topics. The topics for today's discussion are listed over your screen. First topic is an antidote called empathy. Second topic is trade secrets. Third is rising non-communicable diseases and health risk. Fourth topic is regarding women's financial inclusion. And then we have 2 MCQs for prelims. One is regarding International Organization for Migration and other is about International Monetary Fund. So before starting our discussion, if you like our video, give us a thumbs up. And if you have any questions to ask, you can ask us in the comment section. So let's start our discussion. So the first topic for today's discussion appeared on the page number 12 of Indian Express. And this article, we have taken it in the perspective of GS paper 4 ethics. So the author of this article says that the Indian institutions, particularly the public institutions, they should be rescued from the brute language of power. That is, the crude language, the crude display of power which is being happening in this public institution, it should be curbed, and these institutions should move towards feminization of these institutions. Now, with feminization of these institutions, the author does not mean that it does not only mean that the number of women in these institutions, the number of women in decision making powers in these institutions should be increased, but the author also means that apart from it, the feminine values of empathy, the feminine values of care should be inculcated in these institutions such that there should be a feminization among these public institutions. So this is the central idea of this article. Now we have taken this article in a broader perspective by talking about empathy. Empathy as a value, empathy as a virtue. Now this topic is important for us for our GS paper 4 under the syllabus head aptitude and foundational values for civil services, which among all these values also include empathy, right? And if you see our previous year questions, we see that in the year 2019 UPSC has asked this question which says that what is empathy? Is it an important trait for the present day civil servants? Explain with examples. So let's move on to see this topic in broader detail, right? Now, empathy. First of all, what is empathy? Empathy is the ability, is the value, is the virtue to understand the conditions of others from their point of view. That is, you can understand the emotions, the pain, the conditions of other people, not from your own point of view, but by being into the shoes of that particular person, right? Now, if we see this as this graph, see, on the y-axis I have plotted action and on the x-axis our feelings. So if we see this position, at this position of 0, 0, but we find that there is a value, a negative value, which is apathy. Apathy means complete indifference, right? In this position, a person neither has feelings for any other person and nor this person is taking any action. If we have to plot another value, which is sympathy, if I plot it here, I see that in sympathy, the feelings of this person have increased or changed. That is, if I say that if you feel sympathetic towards other, I may say that you may feel sorry for the loss of any other person, for the loss which happened with any other person, but your actions may not be that much, or the intensity of your actions may not be that much, but the higher value of sympathy is denoted by empathy, and the highest value of empathy or the foundation of empathy breeds to compassion. And what does this mean? That this means that you can feel the point of view of a third person, and then you will take motivated actions also. For example, say you are 3 roommates and one of your roommates belong to a he's financially stressed, right? And apart from which, what happened that his money for the rent which he saved has got stolen. And now if you sympathize with this person, you can feel sorry for him. Okay, we feel sorry for your loss. But if you emphasize with this person, what you can do, you can pool your resources to provide the rent for this particular month for your roommate, right? So this is feeling plus action, right? Now, what are the values which come up when a person is empathetic, right? The first value is compassion. Empathy is the breeding ground for compassion, as we already discussed, and it motivates a person to take a mindful action to alleviate the suffering of any other person. The famous example of a person with utmost compassion can be Mother Teresa. With empathy comes the value of tolerance. From the value of tolerance, if one inculcates this value, one may be able to see diverse perspective, and this may particularly help in present day scenario where people are divided on the basis of caste, on the basis of religion. And if we inculcate the value of empathy and then tolerance comes within us, we will be able to see diverse perspective of different communities, of different classes of people, of different genders, right? Other thing which comes with it is fairness and justice. If a person is empathetic, that person may be able to predict the consequences of his actions. And if the person is able to see the consequences of his actions, he is more prone to take, if he is empathetic, he is more prone to take actions which promote fairness and justice. Other thing is, it will imbibe the values of cooperation and cohesion in the society, right? As we will look out for collective welfare, right? So these are the values which come up with empathy. Now, why is empathy particularly important for civil servant? The first reason is, by inculcating the value of empathy gives a positive attitude, develops positive attitude among civil servants. Second thing is, by inculcating it, they go beyond the call of duty. Now, what does this mean? If a person goes beyond the call of duty, this means that he sees civil service not just as job but as public service, right? The third thing is, the person is answerable to his conscience. If a civil servant who is empathetic, if he take actions, and for it he is not just answerable to law, he will take actions for which he is answerable to his higher self, to his conscience. Also, with this, the person can fulfill his swadharma. And in Hindu philosophies, what is swadharma? Swa means self, and dharma is duty. That is, there is an inherent duty of a person to himself. And by emphasizing with other people, by promoting public welfare, by serving others, this is the swadharma of a person. And this will elevate this person to his highest good, right? Also, there is a high chance that if a civil servant is empathetic, this will reduce corruption happening within the system, right? As the person will rise above his self-centeredness and he will work for collective welfare or public welfare. So this is the importance of emphasizing this value of empathy in civil servants by imbibing these values. And now let's see that what will be the issues which may rise if a civil servant lacks empathy. What are the issues which may rise? Now, first issue may be inefficient service delivery. Now we all know that the job of civil servant is mostly deals with public service, and if a civil servant, if he always follows the hard written laws, giving no consideration to individual circumstances, in that condition, what may happen? It may condition in that condition there may be hard or rigid following of certain rules, and that this may lead to bureaucratic hurdles. And one example can be seen when there are lots of files, lots of applications which are pending in our uh, uh, in the offices of these administrators. And because of this, what happens? Because of which there are unnecessary delays in the act of service, in the act of public welfare. And what happens? These unnecessary delays, they promote or they build mistrust or a sense of frustration in general public, and hence this leads to inefficient service delivery. Other thing is, this will breed mistrust in people. This will bring a sense of apathy, a sense of frustration in general public towards public institutions. They may not be able, or it may deter these people to seek future services, or welfare services from government offices. The third thing is, it may breed social inequality. How so? See, in a society like India, where there are presence of various vulnerable sections like women, various religious minorities. So, in that case, if a civil servant is not empathetic, so if he does not give considerations to the individual circumstances, or if he does not prioritize the circumstances of these people who belong to vulnerable communities, then there are high chances that these people may feel marginalized or alienated. So, this may further widen the existing social inequalities which are present in the society, right? The fourth thing is that, okay, let's discuss first fifth. See, and because if a civil servant is not empathetic enough, there is a high chance that he will involve in self-centric behavior, and which may also risk corruption, that he may commit corruption. And then this may lead to a missed opportunity for public welfare, or for a reform, or for cohesion, or building cohesion in the society, right? So these are the issues which may happen due to lack of empathy. Now the final section, that how to imbibe these feelings or these values of empathy. What should be the way forward? But first, let's see some examples, some recent examples of prominent civil servant who went beyond their call of duty, and they displayed the utmost level of empathy in them. Now, the first example is of a young dynamic officer, Anukriti Sharma, IPS Anukriti Sharma, who went beyond her call of duty to help bring electricity to a 70-year-old women's house. See, generally bringing electricity to the house of common people is not the work of police department, but this officer, what she did, she empathized with this women, and she pooled resources from her own pocket and from police department, and then she bought electricity to the house of this women, right? So this was a Swadesh movement. And then we can see other examples also, where there is an IPS officer, Dr. Pragya Jain, who went beyond her call of duty, and she came to aid of a minor rape survivor. So there was a minor rape survivor suffering from Down syndrome, and who was left abandoned at a local facility. So this IPS officer, she provided her care and support, and also stayed back at the hospitals beyond her duty hours to look into this rape survivor, right? So this was also an utmost display of empathy in this officer. And other example, we can see that there was an IS officer in Telangana who provided his official vehicle, his official transportation for a pregnant woman to reach hospital when, because of water logging, there was an absence of public transportation. So to help this pregnant woman, he provided his own official vehicle, right? So these are some of the examples that where these civil servants went beyond their call of duty and displayed all these attributes which we saw. Now let's come back to our other section, which is how to imbibe these all values. The first thing is by self-reflection. Self-reflection means by increasing self-awareness to see our individual biases, and our biases basically, and by improving our self-awareness. Other thing is by seeing by studying enough case studies and by seeing the impact of policies, by studying the consequences of policies, the positive and negative consequences which the policies had on these citizens, and by studying it one can understand this value. Also by volunteering gives a first hand experiences, and it gives diverse perspective and first hand experiences to see the plight, to see the needs and challenges of these vulnerable people, or to the people of marginalized sections in the society. And traveling also gives this opportunity. Also, another thing is to practice active listening, to be mindful of one's own actions, right? So these are, so this is what this so this discussion is about empathy and how to imbibe these values in oneself. Now with this, let's move on to our next article for the day, which is regarding this news article, which says that Law Commission recommends a new law to protect trade secrets. So the 22nd Law Commission has asked the government to introduce a new legislation to protect trade secrets. Trade secrets are a kind of intellectual property right. Now, presently in India, there is a lack of specific law or specific rule, legislation to prevent the protection of trade secrets, right? So, this particular news article, this is also important for our GS paper 2 governance, and this article is also important for our GS paper 3 science and technology, under the subsection awareness in the field of IT space computers among others and issues related to intellectual property rights. Now if we see this theme, in the year 2014 we saw this particular question. We said that in a globalized world, intellectual property rights assume significance are a source of litigation, broadly distinguished between the terms copyrights, patents and trade secrets, right? So let's start our discussion. Now before starting this, what are IPR? What is IPR? IPR are intellectual property rights. That is, they are a certain kind of legal rights which are awarded to the creators. For what? For their intellectual property, or for the creations, any creation of or any inventions of their mind, right? Which they created using their mind, right? Using their intellect. So these are legal rights for the protection of their intellectual property. Now, these are the popular types of intellectual property right, first of which is trademark. Now, what is a trademark? Trademark is any symbol, any logo, any tagline which distinguishes any product or service from others. See, this is the logo of Apple. So, by seeing this logo, we can distinguish the Apple, the product of this company with other companies, right? So, this is a trademark of that particular company for his, and any company can apply it for their product or any service. Another kind of IPR is copyright. Now, what is a copyright? Copyright is a kind of IPR which is awarded for any original work of authorship. That is, for any authorship, say for any novel, for any song, for any film, or for any say copyright for any content, copyright can be issued for protecting the work of authorship. Other kind of IPR is patent. Now what is patent? Patent is an exclusive legal right which is awarded to the creator in order to protect, or by awarding this exclusive, by awarding patent, the creator of any novel product or process, only his creator would be able to use that product or process, or manufacture, use or sell that product. For example, if we manufacture any particular drug, say there is a discovery of a drug to treat cancer, then a patent can be given in the process, in this product, in this formulation of the drug or the process by which this drug has been created, and then the exclusive creator, the drug company which created it, can only use, sell or manufacture this drug using any particular process, right? And the other type of IPR which we are going to study today is trade secret. Now, what is trade secret? Trade secret is any kind of confidential business information, right? Which is it is any kind of information, business information, which gives competitive edge to any innovator over other businesses, right? So let's see this in detail. So what are trade secrets? As we already discussed, it is any kind of confidential business information which is giving competitive edge to a company over other companies. And now these secrets can be awarded for technical information of that particular business or for their commercial information also. Now, what is technical information? Now, for example, the company can be given trade secret for its manufacturing process. Now, one most famous example of trade secret is the recipe of Coca-Cola, or say the recipe of KFC. Now, if we talk about Coca-Cola, this company, this formula or this recipe of Coca-Cola is a trade secret, and this is the longest known trade secret, and it has been a trade secret since year 1886. And then for the manufacturing process of Coca-Cola, this is a trade secret. And similarly, for any other, say, for any algorithm, for any source code of any company, for these technical informations, a trade secret can be awarded. And now what is commercial information? Commercial information may be, say there is a certain kind of survey which gives the company information about its potential clients. So that can be a trade secret for that company because it is going to benefit that company. There can be any kind of marketing strategy the company will follow, adopt in future, or it is adopting. So that is a trade secret because it is benefiting that company. So these trade secrets, what does it do? It gives the company the right to prevent the information, right? And there are certain legislations in particular, certain countries have their own individual legislations to protect trade secrets. But one generalized legislation is TRIPS. TRIPS is Trade Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Right. It is a famous intellectual property right agreement which was signed in the year 1994 under the ambit of World Trade Organization. And this under TRIPS, a trade secret can be a secret of any business house, can only be a trade secret when it is only known to a limited number of people. That is owing to its secretness or owing to its confidentiality. Only if it is known to a limited number of people, it may be termed as trade secret. And then only if that secret is commercially valuable, and only if the company is taking reasonable steps for the protection of that trade secret. That is, if the company is storing that secret, say in some bank vaults or via any other secret confidential processes, right? And how does the violation of trade secret may happen? The violation of a trade secret may happen either by misappropriation, that is either by theft of that particular trade secret, say that source code, that algorithm, or that particular recipe has been theft, or either by disclosure. If a person who knows this trade secret, if he willingly disclose that secret to a third party or to public, so that is disclosure. And in this case, in the case of violation, there are certain under TRIPS, there is a legislation, there is a remedy for its legislation for this dispute resolution, right? And now let's see some other aspects of trade secrets, that by awarding trade secrets, the business house gets the right to prevent the information from dissemination or keep his strategies to that business house such that the business house benefits from that strategies. And these trade secrets, they can be licensed and sold, right? And this could, and a business house can sell their trade secret to any third party and they can earn money out of it. And one important fact about trade secret is that the trade secret, there is an unlimited duration for any trade secret. If we compare it with patent, we know that any product or any process can only be patented in a maximum for a maximum duration of 20 years. After then, a company can apply for a repatenting, but still it can be only patented for 20 years at one go. But for trade secret, there is an unlimited duration. Also, there is an immediate effect for trade secret and no registration is required. But having said this, there are certain issues with trade secrets. What are these issues? Unlike patent, which are enforceable to a greater extent, because the terms in a patent, or say if a drug is being manufactured, the proper process or the proper composition or formulation of that drug has been listed out, had been written out, and then it has been protected, it has been patented. So this accords, patent are accorded a highest degree of, say, protection or enforceability. They can be enforced better as compared to trade secrets. But what happens with trade secret is that they are difficult to enforce owing to the vagueness. Because of their confidentiality, the trade secret of one company may overlap the trade secret of the trade secret of other company also. So because of its opaqueness, it is difficult to enforce. The violation of trade secret is difficult to enforce. Other thing is that in a trade secret, there is no protection from individual innovation or reverse engineering in case via individual innovation or via reverse engineering, exact 100% formulation of particular process comes out to be, in that case also there is no protection. For example, continuing with the example of Coca-Cola, say if any other business house comes out with the 100% similar recipe for Coca-Cola or formulation for Coca-Cola, then via their individual innovation or via reverse engineering by analyzing the chemicals or the formulations of this product, in that case there is no protection, unlike patent, right? Also, there is a limited innovation over original invention. Now, we all know that since original invention is confidential, it's a kept secret, and it is not open source. The source is not open to public, then there is limited innovation over the original invention, right? Now, we see that the Law Commission has asked the government to frame a law which deals with protecting trade secrets. Now, what is the need for it? Presently, there is no specific legislation in India which deals with trade secret. There are the disputes arising out of arising out of this trade secrets. They are presently dealt under various laws such as Indian Contract Act 1872 or under various provisions of Indian Penal Code. For example, there may be provisions of theft, there may be some other provisions, misappropriation or some other provisions, but there is a lack of specific dedication, specific legislation which deals with trade secrets. Okay, and for this, India in its National Intellectual Property Right Policy 2016 also, it gave a scope of formulating a legislation for trade secrets in future. Now, in the same lines, the Law Commission has asked the government to frame a specific law. Now, let's see that what is the need for this law. Earlier, when a legislation for trade secret was being formulated under TRIPS in the year 1994, India kind of opposed it. But at that time, we know that that time the chances that this confidential data would have been leaked was way less as compared to the present times, because today the confidential information, they are in the form of, generally they are in the form of digital information, right? So in this time of digital information, it is very hard or it is very difficult to prevent these data data leaks, right? So in order to save this sensitive data, or in order to save the sensitive data of, say, small startups, small entrepreneurs from data leak. There is a need to frame a law which deals with trade secrets. Other thing is that by framing a law, there will be clarity in definition that exactly what is a trade secret. Though we have this definition, but this may be too broad. We don't have a definite information or a crisp information for trade secret, and this clarity in definition, this will help these small startups or other business houses also to, in order to go for protection of their trade secrets, or in order, or they can sell their trade secrets to any third company or any third party also. And in that case, this will help in technological transfer. In many cases, in the cases of FTAs, free trade agreements regarding technology transfer from various countries, there is an issue which India faces, is that as the IPR regime of India does not involve trade secrets, uh, uh, does not involve the does not involve its protection of trade secrets, then in that cases there are issues in transferring of technology to India. And one such example is the US Special Report 301, Special Report 301, which is an annual report which US launches annually, and this talks about unilateral sanctions to certain countries which have improper IPR regime. And India has also been many times in this list, right? So this will avoid such kind of circumstances. And also this will help in greater enforcement of legal protection for these for the parties which are suffering in case of violation of trade secrets, right? And it will also usher in innovation. So this is all about trade secret. Now with this, let's move on to our third topic for the day, and this is based on this article which appeared on Indian Express and other article which appeared on the Hindu Business Line. And the first article, it also deals about that it also says that India is facing a double burden of obesity and diabetes. And the other article is also saying that obesity is a silent risk to women's heart. That is, obesity is a chronic non-communicable disease in obesity is rising in India. It's a chronic condition, and especially this article says about how it is impacting women more, right? So we will be dealing with all these issues. And now this is important for us for our GS paper 2 social justice. Under the syllabus head, issues relating to development and management of social sector services related to health. And in previous years also, we found this particular question which was regarding geriatric and maternal health care. And maybe sometime we could find a question on the emergence of the rising incidence of non-communicable disease in the country. Now let's start this article. See, as a broad, we all know that what are non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases are not caused by any infectious agents, unlike communicable diseases, and they are chronic. Non-communicable diseases are chronic, that is, they have a long developmental period, right? And what are the examples of non-communicable diseases in India? Particularly, they are cardiovascular diseases or heart diseases, respiratory diseases, cancer, diabetes, mental health disorders. These are all NCDs in India, or these are the examples of NCDs. And what are the risk factors? Risk factors, basically, they may be genetic in some cases, but mostly non-communicable diseases, they are lifestyle diseases. They are caused basically by inactivity, by sedentary lifestyle, lack of physical activity, and also by dietary preferences, by the changed dietary preferences, and which we are consuming more processed food. We are consuming food which is high in salt and sugar intake. And because of all these issues and because of various other environmental factors, for example, our exposure to other diseases, other kind of stress, mental stress a person is facing, these are all the issues which are the risk factors for non-communicable diseases. Now, as per the data from from World Health Organization, the data says that in the year 2019, 71% of the global deaths were from non-communicable diseases. And in India alone, in the year 2019, 66% of death in India were due to non-communicable diseases. And the major non-communicable disease which India faced was cancer and heart diseases. Okay. So let's see about two diseases. Today we'll focus on diabetes and obesity. And diabetes, let's see it from science perspective, that what is diabetes. Now we all know that, see, we eat food, and by the process of digestion, what happens, that this food is broken down to its simplest sugar. Glucose is the simplest sugar, right? And the sugar, this is assimilated in our blood, right? So this happens in a metabolic process, which is digestion. And we have other metabolic process, which is respiration. And what happens in respiration? What is respiration? Respiration is burning of this glucose. Okay, that is, this glucose is broken down in the presence of oxygen, and this glucose in the presence of oxygen, this is broken down into ATP or ATP energy molecules, right? And where is this glucose being broken down? This is broken down inside cell, inside human cells. This is a human cell, this is nucleus, and there is a cell organelle which we call as mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. You have read this. And what does exactly mitochondria do? It breaks down glucose to produce energy, ATP. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that when in the blood there is imbalance of glucose. When this glucose in the blood is imbalanced. Now see, in the first case, this is normal blood glucose in the blood. And in the second case, we see higher presence of these yellow particles, which are glucose. So in problem, what's the problem? When there is higher glucose concentration in blood, we also say this high blood sugar. Now what is causing this high blood sugar? The main problem is insulin. There is an issue with insulin. What is the issue? Now first of all, what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone which is released by pancreas. Pancreas release insulin, right? But what happens in some case, and what is the work of insulin? The work of insulin is regulation of blood glucose level. That is, this glucose level in our blood is regulated by insulin. But see, if this production of insulin is disturbed, then we will suffer from high blood sugar, right? And this is the condition which is known as diabetes. Now let's understand what is diabetes. Diabetes is a chronic condition when the blood glucose level becomes too high, right? And this diabetes can be of two types. What is type 1 diabetes? Type 1 diabetes happens when the pancreas do not produce insulin. That is, the production of insulin is outrightly stopped. Why does this happen? This is an autoimmune disorder in which our own immune system, it kills the cells, it kills the beta cells present in pancreas which produce insulin. So these cells are killed. That's why insulin is not produced by pancreas, right? And basically this kind of disorder is more genetic in nature, and it impacts juvenile people also. Many young people also, you can see, who are suffering from diabetes, they are suffering from type 1 diabetes. And there is other type of diabetes, which is type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, it happens when there is an insulin deficiency. Insulin is present in the body, but it is deficient, or either the body is not reacting to insulin, or there is an insulin resistance built up in the body. Okay, so this is about diabetes, and the lifestyle or these risk factors which we already discussed, they aggravate the health risk of diabetes, of having diabetes. And now other NCD which we talk about is obesity. So what is obesity? Obesity is the condition where there is excessive accumulation of body fat. So when we say that BMI, body mass index of that is the ratio of height to the weight of the body of any person, when it is around 30 or more than 30, when the BMI of a person is more than 30, then that person is obese. And because of this, when a person is obese, then this can link with multiple issues. That obesity is directly linked to heart disease. A person who is obese is highly likely to suffer from heart diseases, and obesity also increases the cholesterol level in the blood, and it also increases the blood pressure, and which in turns can lead to risk of diabetes. So we can see that this obesity increases the risk of diabetes, and diabetes in turn increases the risk of heart diseases, right? So this is a vicious cycle. And also we know that cardiovascular diseases in India, these are the leading cause of death for women, particularly women in India are suffering from these cardiovascular diseases, right? And as per the data of National Health Family Survey 5, we saw that this data said that out of 5 women in India, 2 women are suffering from abdominal obesity, that is obesity or the higher deposition of fat around the waistline, right? So now there was a unique observation in an article which was present in Indian Express. This article says that despite having a lower body mass index, now earlier we saw that obesity, that is a higher risk, obesity, the people who are obese are higher risk of developing diabetes. But in India, there is a unique observation that despite having lower body mass index, Indian people are more prone to accumulate fat in their abdomen, right? Despite they may be having low BMI, but still they may be having more fat deposition in their abdomen or their belly, and this can lead to higher glucose levels, and also they become more prone to diabetes. Now, why so? This is because of various epigenetic reasons. Now, what is epigenetic reasons? Epigenetic reasons or epigenetics is the recently emerging field of science which analyzes various environmental factors, various factors in the environment which causes issue with gene expression. That is, there are certain conditions that can cause certain diseases, and these conditions can be, for example, undernutrition, maternal diabetes, infection, stress. If a mother has these problems, then these all, because of these all problems, the baby or the fetus which is in the womb, this may have these epigenetic changes, and because of which this person may be more prone to this cycle, right? And now let's see, this article also say that, see, women in India are suffering more as compared to men. Why so? Because they basically, the symptoms which they suffer, they don't consider it. Other thing is there is delay in diagnosis of these symptoms. They are less likely to assess medical care because of various reasons. They may not respond to treatment because various research and development of drugs has been done on male. Further, they may have other biological differences. What are these what are these differences? The first thing is the hormonal changes which may occur in women. They may occur during the time of pregnancy. These hormonal changes may occur in the women during the time of menopause. And because of these biological differences, women may not respond to treatment as compared to male. And further, the increasing lifestyle which is impacting everyone. So these are certain issues which the article highlighted. Now, what is the way forward? Way forward is to increase nutrition level in the population as a whole, and especially nutrition levels in adolescent women, in adolescent girls, women, lactating women, pregnant women, and children, right? And there are various schemes for it. See these schemes, for example, portion schemes, midday meal schemes, these other schemes, and by improving the health infrastructure. See this fact about this news, right? With this, let's move on to our next article of the day, which says that women's financial inclusion is not understood. It talks about the challenges in including women in the financial services, and where the challenges, what are the challenges which women are facing. Now, this is important for our GS paper 2, social justice also, under welfare schemes for various vulnerable sections, and women is a vulnerable section. And such questions we can see, which is regarding microfinance, especially with empowering women of rural India, and other for, this is also important for our GS paper 3 under inclusive growth and issues arising out of it. As last year only we saw a question which was regarding care economy and monetized economy. and how care economy can be brought into monetized economy through women empowerment. Okay, so these are the dimensions which this article may cover. Now, first of all, let's see what is financial inclusion. So, financial inclusion means that it is broadening of financial services such that it may include various sections of population. Now, what are these financial services? These financial services may be this may be access to bank accounts, access to formal credit, say loan, access to insurance services, and access to loans, insurance services, and pensions. So these are financial services, and how can the access to these services can be improved? First of all, the access can be improved by building infrastructure in the geographical proximity of people, especially building such infrastructure in rural areas, and also by building digital infrastructure. Other thing is by making this inclusion in financial services more affordable. Other thing is the ease, making it more easy, right? Other thing is by improving financial literacy of the people, especially women, if we want to include more women in financial services, right? And now let's see what are the benefits of financial inclusion. What are the benefits? First thing is credit creation. By all these facilities, there is credit creation, and because of which there is more demand, right? And more demand means more consumption, and more consumption means economic growth. This is first perspective. Second is insurance. What would insurance do? Insurance is for will provide a safety net in kind for any kind of unforeseeable situations. For example, there is a crop failure, there are certain other issues for which there is insurance, a safety net. What are pensions? Pensions are a kind of social security which can be given to people of certain age after a certain age, and this will provide them corpus enough to maintain their standard of life, right? And especially, what are the benefits to women? Especially women, if they are financially included, right? By financial inclusion, women may be more empowered. They may have more sense of agency. They may have more improved decision making powers. So these are the aspects, or these are the benefits of financial inclusion, right? Now let's see what is some data regarding financial inclusion in India with a special focus on women. Data regarding women. Now the current or the recent data shows that still, despite we know that the government started Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana and various other initiatives for financial inclusion, we see that still around 20% of Indian women do not have a bank account. And we have seen that around 32% of Indian women who opened bank account, especially under Jan Dhan bank accounts, they are inactive. They are not using those bank accounts. And less than 15% of women, total women in the country, they save or they borrow money formally. That is, their exposure to formal economy is minimum or low. And also around 28%, only around 28% of Indian women have done any kind of digital payment, or they have used any kind of digital services, right? So this is the state of financial inclusion in the country. Now we see that what are the constant, right? What are the challenges? Why is it happening? First thing is lack of mobility. Lack of mobility, we all know that because of social structure of our country, there is a lack of mobility, or there is an issues of mobility for women, right? They don't go out of their home, and this can manifest in various way. For example, this can be manifested as their low education outcomes, that is lack of financial literacy, right? So this may be some issues, and because of which they are they have poor knowledge of financial services, or the financial services which are benefiting them, they have poor knowledge of these services. Other thing is lack of agency. Even if women have a bank account, say for example, even if a woman has bank account, or even if a woman has a access to any credit or loan, still the decision which that women is going to take is largely, the woman is dependent on male members of her family to take financial decisions on her behalf, right? So this is the lack of agency in Indian women, the lack of financial decision making power they have. Other thing is poor assets. We all know that women do not have assets in their name. Even if we talk about the property, agricultural land, these all property, there are hardly registrations in the name of women, right? Also, if we see that in India there is a low female labor force participation rate. A data shows that the labor force participation rate of women in India who are more than 15 years of age, this data is around 30% in the latest periodic labor force survey. But if we see the global average, this global average is 47%. We are still, that is still 30% of Indian women in the age of 15 to 60 years, only they are working, right? And still, even if they work, there is a pay disparity. Also, unpaid care work. We all know that we have seen, some of us have seen our mothers who worked as housewives. So, despite their enormous service, selfless service, their contribution is not considered in monetary terms, right? So, because of which this causes them loss of finances, and also it causes them time poverty. So, this is known as unpaid care work, which is mostly done by women in India. Also, digital divide. There is a presence of enormous digital divide in across regions, also urban, rural, and across genders. Also, women are more vulnerable to this digital divide, and because of which they cannot access financial services. So these are the steps which government has taken in order to boost financial inclusion. These steps are by creating this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, and which is a scheme for financial inclusion, and which among other things says that there should be one bank account per household, and by giving women preference in various government schemes such as PM Awas Yojana, direct benefit transfer, PM Swanidhi scheme, by other schemes such as Matru Vandan Yojana, in which rupees 5,000 is credited in the account of women after the birth of first child, by facilitating banking mitras or banking correspondent in rural areas to help women or to help other people also, especially women, in accessing financial services, by microfinancing which has been done by self-help groups. One example is Kudam Shri, which is a prominent self-help group in Kerala. The success story of this self-help group is worth noticing, right? And also Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, which is a scheme for savings in the name of girl child, and it gives higher interest rate. So these are some of the this is the issue of financial inclusion, and these are some of the steps which government has taken. With this, let's move on to our next article for the day, and this is a prelims topic. And this article says that, this article, it has been said that United Nations says 2023 was the deadliest year in a decade for migrants. Why so? Because around more than 8,500 people who migrated, they died in the year 2023, and this was due to unsafe migration. And especially these all disasters, they happened near Mediterranean, when they were crossing Mediterranean Ocean, right? Now, in order to make these migrations safer, what kind of migrations? These migrations can be migration, that is migration outside any country, or migration because of work, that is migrant workers, and also internal migration, internal displacement, that is displacement of people because of some situations in the country. So in order to ensure the dignity to these migrant people, in order to ensure that their rights are protected, in order to facilitate safe migration to these people, there is a body of United Nations. So there is an intergovernmental body which is known as International Organization for Migration. It was established in the year 1951. So it is committed to the principle of humane and orderly migration benefits to migrant and society, right? And this organization is guided by the principles enshrined in the Charter of United Nations to uphold the human rights for these people. And this provides assistance, and it frames policies for the welfare of all these migrant categories, which I already mentioned: migrant workers, refugees, and internally displaced people. and the Director General of this organization is elected by the International Organization of Migration member states for 5-year term. Presently, there are around 175 members of this organization. And now, based on this information, it would be pretty easier for you to solve this question. Right? Solve this question in the comment section. And now let's move on to our final article, which is regarding this news article, which says that ensure Pak does not divert loans to food defense bills India to IMF. So Pakistan is about to get some kind of bailout package from International Monetary Fund, and India has put out its point that the world should, or IMF should, put out regulations in order to ensure that Pakistan would not use such fund towards paying its defense bill or towards repayment of loans from other countries, right? Now, in this article, we have framed a question on International Monetary Fund. So, we all know that what is International Monetary Fund? International Monetary Fund is a specialized financial agency of United Nations. It is a Bretton Woods. It is an institution which was born out of Bretton Woods Conference, which was held in the year 1944. This means that IMF was established in 1944, and IMF primarily contains a fund. And what does this fund aim to do? This fund is aimed to promote global financial stability. That is financial stability of the member nations, especially the member countries of IMF, right? For it, IMF gives out short-term policy support and short-term bailout package, especially when the country is suffering from balance of payment crisis. It happened with India in 1990s. Now, if it's a fund where it is pooling some money, so IMF as a fund pools out money in forms of contribution from its member nations. Presently, there are 190 member nations of IMF. So, what does IMF do? It takes contributions from its member countries, and according to their financial capacity, the member nations contribute to IMF. And other thing is, IMF in this fund, it takes loans, bilateral loans from some countries, and also multilateral loans from other countries or group of countries, right? So this is the source of fund which IMF has, and IMF grants loan to its member countries only, right? So these are the important facts which you should know about IMF. Now it would be pretty easier for you to solve this question. Now with this, let's end our discussion. If you have any doubt, ask us in the comment section. Thank you.